On this episode of Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery, we're going to dive into part 2 of the question, are you too busy earning a living to earn any real money?
Running a successful fee-based financial planning business is tough, and escaping the shackles of a commission-based financial planning practice is terrifying. When all you want to do is learn from those who know, learn from financial planners who are there on the front lines doing it each and every day. What if you could just open their kimono and take a look inside to learn what works and what doesn't? Now there's a place where the secrets to running a fee-based financial planning business are revealed to those who believe. Fee-based financial planning mastery. Ease your mind.
Hi everyone, it's Scott Plaskett here, and thanks for joining me. In this podcast, you will learn what's working and what's not in the world of fee-based financial planning. In each episode, I'm going to open my kimono and let you take an insider's look at what's working and what's not in my practice to help you take your business to the next level. I've been a fee-based certified financial planner since the early 90s, so believe me, I know the challenges you're facing. So get ready to learn not from a teacher, coach, or guru, but from a colleague who's on the front lines just like you. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my email internet newsletter to get the most up-to-date tips on how to build and grow your fee-based financial planning practice by going to feebasedfinancialplanningmastery.com.
And now for our feature segment.
All right, now in the last episode, I went through a whole experience of some of the advisors that I came into contact with when I was a rookie in this business, and how, just simply being a rookie, and I didn't really know the inner workings of the business, and I didn't know how it all worked, and I just saw these guys as being huge top performers and getting all the accolades and winning awards and going on trips and did all this stuff. And then I did as time went on, I was able to get closer to them and understand what it was they were doing, and what they were doing was just not what I would consider good business. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that all top producers are not doing a great business. And I think the industry is recognizing, well, I don't know if the industry is recognizing this, but I've definitely recognized, and I think if you're listening to this show, you're recognizing that the industry has a problem. And the whole addiction that the industry seems to be addicted to, the whole addiction to commissions and embedded commissions and DSC commissions and all this sort of stuff, it just has to stop. And there are solutions around that. And the problem the industry has is that the industry doesn't necessarily recognize how to, create a profitable business model based on true, transparent, fee-based financial planning. And they don't know how to make it work. Nice thing is you're listening to this show, and I've made it work. I know how it works. I've got the magic formula, and so if you continue listening along the way, you're just gonna simply build yourself a better business that is so much better and so much more valuable to your clients, to you, to others, that you're just going to love it. So what I wanted to do today is have a continuation on the details that I was diving into from our last episode. And in the last episode, I was talking about all the things that the elite firms do. Now, these are the firms that I've recognized as being the good firms, because I didn't want to sort of blanket or throw every successful financial planner under the bus. I just wanted to highlight some of the practices that I came across that people were doing that I didn't believe in and that I didn't think were good, and basically weren't able to stand the test of time. Now, there are a lot of elite firms out there that are doing things well. And I've taken the time, and I know a lot of these advisors, and we've embraced a lot of these tools and strategies, and we've come up with our own tools and strategies that we do in our fee-based financial planning model. And so I wanted to dive into, the details of each one of these things. So let's do that now. So what we're going to do is dive into each of these so you can use them. And the information that I'm going to talk about in this podcast, you can use this information to use it as a way to reflect back to your business. So you can take a look at your business and say, am I doing everything that's required in this section? So the first section I want to talk about is making sure that you have a clear understanding of what it is that you do for your clients. Okay. Now this is where I will direct you straight back to the V2 Mom. And if you haven't heard of what a V2 Mom is, just simply go to our website and and in the search section, just type in V2Mom, or you should see some information on it, or just simply Google V2Mom, and one of our pieces will show up, because V2Mom is a process I didn't come up with. It was a process that Mark Benioff, the founder of Salesforce.com, created. It hasn't really taken off. However, what I am finding just from looking at the stats on our website is that a lot of people are finding our website because of the V2Mom phrase. And so anyway, I'm just going to go into what V2Mom is in a little more detail here, so you can then take a look at that as a way of giving you a clear understanding about what it is that you do for your clients and how you do it. So V2Mom is simply an acronym, and the V stands for vision. Okay, and this is where you're going to define what it is that you do. Okay, so defining what you do, then break down what you do into your various revenue streams. And so this is something that I do. I take my V2Mom and I do it at the beginning of every year, or I update it at the end of every year. So in this vision section, you're going to break down what it is that you do into your various revenue streams. Okay, so for us, the revenue streams are simply financial planning fees, the investment implementation and oversight revenue, and the insurance revenue. So those are the three core revenue streams that you're going to be taking a look at. Then identify what your target client looks like and what revenue can be expected from each stream from an average new client. So for example, take a look at a new client profile, and say, okay, if I bring on a new client, on average, they're going to qualify. If you take a look at our process, we've got 3 different programs. They're going to qualify for, on average, X program, whether it be the first program, second program, third, top tier, middle tier, whatever you want to term it. So which program would they qualify for? And what financial planning fee is associated with that program? So okay, from a fee-based standpoint, I know that a new client, we're going to receive revenue within the first 12 months of X from their financial planning fee. Then you're going to say, and on average, those clients will have X amount of dollars in assets. Maybe it's $100,000 in assets, maybe it's $250,000, maybe it's $500,000, maybe it's $1 million. I don't know. But whatever that number is for you, you need to look at that and say, okay, what's the average level of assets that these clients are going to have, and they're going to come over to me with, that I'm going to then assist them with on the implementation and oversight. And, the reality is that, 99% of your clients will have you implement their investment solutions for them. So you want to make sure, go back to making sure you have the right investment solutions in place. Now, those investment solutions, there's a certain revenue that you're going to receive from that. Now, because I am recommending a fee-based approach, I recommend that everything be completely transparent. So what's your fee going to be for the investment oversight and implementation and coordination on their investments? So maybe that's 1%, maybe it's 0.75%, maybe it's 1.25%. I don't know. But again, whatever that number is, you need to be able to, first of all, justify it. But then, if all your clients move forward with this particular fee, okay, great. Now if you bring in an average client with $500,000 in assets and your fee is 1%, then that means you're going to have $5,000 in revenue from that. So on the financial planning fee, I recommend that your minimum tier fee be around $2,000. So if that's the case, then we now know, okay, from those two components, a new client revenue profile, they're going to be bringing in about so far $7,000 in revenue in the first 12 months. Then the insurance revenue. So there's the life insurance revenue and the living benefits revenue, and you take a look at that and say, okay, what is the revenue that comes from that? And on average, what do you expect? Do your solutions generally recognize, or do your clientele generally, do you recognize that they have a need for living benefits? They have a need for updating their life insurance, and if so, on average, what type of revenue do you receive for that in order to help them implement that? So then you figure out your average client initial year's revenue. Now, either set a revenue goal and work backwards, or set a new client acquisition target and multiply this by your first year revenue per new client. This will provide you with a new business number. Okay, so in your vision, your new business, you're going to have the different components. You're going to say, okay, maybe you're going to work it backwards. So you say, okay, if I now know I want to earn off of new business $100,000, and I know that I'm going to be generating an average of $8,000 or $9,000 or whatever, or $5,000 per client, just simply do the math. Divide that number into your overall goal. That will then tell you the number of clients you need to get in that year to accomplish your goal of new client revenue. Then you add this, your annual renewal fees from previous year's clients. Now, if you're just starting in the business, obviously you're not going to have any renewal fees. You're not going to have an existing client base that you're going to be able to turn to for annual financial planning renewal fees. If you do have an existing client base, then you should have this. And if you don't, I talked about it in previous episodes, you may want to consider rolling out a new division of your company in order to incorporate the fee-based financial planning. So you add that number to your new client revenue. So new client revenue, then you've got your renewal fee revenue. Then you add to this your investment oversight revenue. So if you have existing clients, you're not earning the revenue off that in 1 year, you're earning it every year. So if you take let's say if you have a 1% fee and you've got a $10 million book or a $30 million book or a $100 million book, then you can just simply say, I know that I'm going to generate X amount of dollars in revenue from that particular asset under administration, and you can add that. Then add any other revenue that you can expect from existing clients, things like, existing clients going back and updating their insurance or updating some new investments that are going to come on board from, inheritances or exit packages if they've been let go from work or whatever it happens to be. It just sort of makes an estimate of what that's going to be. Now you have your annual target that you can benchmark against. Okay, so when it comes to your vision, it's important to have your vision and identify what that vision means, what it looks like. So what's your vision? Where are your new clients going to come from? What are the revenues going to be? So you have an idea that basically the building blocks of your business plan. Now, take a look at values. This is the second V. So when I say V2 in V2 Mom, this is the second V because there's two Vs. So the second V is values. What are your immutable laws? So example, your immutable law could be all new clients must go through your fee-based financial planning process. So you commit that you will not work with any new clients unless they go through the fee-based financial planning process. So that means that you're going to have in place a process for bringing on a new client that directs them through to your fee-based financial planning process. And if they're a client that just isn't appropriate for that, then it's going to weed them out as well. So it's going to do a few things at the same time. Also, another example of an immutable law could be we only align ourselves with the best. And that, to me, is very, very important. I talked about it in my last episode that I want to make sure that the teams and the people and the solutions that we align ourselves with are simply the best in the business. I know, that they're going to handle and treat clients the way I treat clients, because if the client knows that every time they turn around and get a referral from you, and it's just an awesome experience, they're just going to simply love you, which means you're much more referable. Another immutable law: the client experience should be exciting and memorable and worth talking about. Now, look at that for a second. The client experience should be worth talking about. What is it that you're doing in your client experience? So this is the experience that somebody who just has never heard of you before, first being introduced to you through your marketing, and it could be through some content marketing, some education-based direct response marketing. They first learn about you. What is it they're learning, right? Is that piece of information worth talking about? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So if it isn't, ask yourself, what can I do to my content on the first stage that could make it more worthy of conversation? And take that approach through every step of your process. So there's the acquisition process where you bring in new leads. Then there's the meeting process. So what's your meeting process look like? And what happens during your meeting process that will make clients talk about you, that will make it more memorable? That simply just, it means it's worth talking about. What are the things that you do? One of the things that we do in our office is that from the first moment they walk in, we make sure that they come in and they sit down and they're in the reception area and they're sort of taking in all the visuals that we have up. We have a lot of visual cues, visual information about who I am, what I've done. There's pictures of me with, popular people, pictures of me on the radio shows, pictures of me with news broadcasters and so on and so forth. I've actually got a picture of me with the Stanley Cup, which is kind of cool. And that's another story for how I got that. But in any event, it's just, to give them a sense of who I am before they've even really met with me. And one of the things that my assistant does is she finds out just like everybody does, what they would like to have, what beverage they would like to have. Well, one thing that we do is we record that information. So recording that information, why do we do that? Well, we do that because the next time they come into the office, I want my staff to be able to say, oh, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith, thank you for coming today. It's so nice to see you. Why don't I get you a beverage? So Mr. Smith, that was a coffee regular, and Mrs. Smith, that was a coffee with 2 cream and sweetener. Is that right? It just allows them to recognize that, wow, you are listening. Now, they may recognize that you recorded that information, but what it does is it shows that you have positive intent in everything that you do. So what are the little things that you can do in your business to make it just that much more of an experience that is memorable and worth talking about? So focus on that when it comes to the values. What are the 3 that we just talked about? All new clients must go through a fee-based financial planning process. So you make sure that nobody gets through unless they go through the financial planning process. We only align ourselves with the best, and we make sure that the client experience is worth talking about. So those are just some of ours that you're more than welcome to embrace into your own practice, because I think it makes sense that they are tools and experiences that every client should have in every practice. But what are some of the other ones? What are some other things that you just feel are important to you? What values do you espouse? Do you want to say that, listen, I'm only going to work with this particular experience or client or whatnot? So that's the second V in the V2 Mom. Now we have Mom. So we've got the V2, we've done the 2 Vs, now we're getting the Mom section. So the first M stands for method. And the method is simply how to get it done. The action steps that you need to take in order to take your vision that you've very clearly identified and to get it done. So, for example, you may say, okay, what do I need to do to get it done? Well, one thing I need to do, if I'm going to have this great client experience, and I need somebody to manage that, so I need to hire a client services manager to free up your time so that you can actually see more prospective clients. So that's one thing that you may say is that, one of the things we need to do is we need to free me up from a lot of the initial stage stuff so I can make my meeting more efficient for myself. So let's hire somebody that we can bring on that will help with the meeting prep and that sort of stuff. And so it just allows you to pack more meetings into a day. Another thing could be on method is to embrace an education-based marketing program and automate it. For the acquisition of new leads, so you can convert those leads to prospects and potentially convert them to new clients on an automated standpoint. So how can you set your marketing program up? So the method you're going to use in order to take the vision, which was the revenue goal and a certain type of client, how can you use marketing to target that client and embrace education-based marketing, embrace the fact that you can automate things in with today's technology, and do all that so that it just happens on autopilot. Because remember, one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to add things to your business that are going to simply make business more difficult for you. You don't want to be the jack of all trades. You need to start hiring support staff. And so who do you start hiring first? Well, it all depends on your vision, what you need to do, and it all depends on the values. So again, for us, you can see that the hiring client services manager, that was probably the first hire that we did. We needed to make sure that there was always somebody there that could, meet with a client, when they came in, and just have a conversation with them, greet them, take their coat, get them a beverage, but also we recognize that having that client services manager be the one who that client talks to when it comes to booking of appointments or getting something done on an administrative side. So we've actually tied that person to being much more involved in the client experience, not just for when they come in, but on a day-to-day basis. And then education-based marketing, embracing that because it is something that's so easy to automate. If you just set up the systems properly, and you can see all the systems that we use under the resources tab or the toolbox on our website. And these are all the tools that I use to automate the whole process for bringing on those leads, which then we ultimately need to convert to clients. Because if you go back to the vision side of developing this business plan or this V2 Mom, and you've determined, okay, for me, in order for me to gain the new client revenue that I need to bring on 10 new clients, or I need to bring on 20 new clients. And if you now know your numbers from a marketing standpoint, and if you know, okay, if I send out 5,000 flyers for this particular piece of content, and that 5,000 flyers generates 50 leads, and those 50 leads generate 5 appointments, and out of those 5 appointments, I can look forward to 2 new clients that fit the profile, then that just simply means it starts with 5,000 flyers. You've got the process in place, so all you need to do is, if you want to get 2 clients a month, well, there's your process. You take 5,000 flyers, you send them out to different targeted markets, and every month that should translate into 2 new clients going through your process. And so following the methods on how you're going to do that is so critical to the overall success, but you don't know if you're being successful unless you have something to benchmark against, which is why we put the vision together. So that takes care of the method. So how to get it done? What are the action steps? And really what I'd encourage you to do in that section is to list all of the things that you need to have in place, because, this vision is a vision of the future, and you can create your future. You can make it whatever you want it to be. So if you now know what your future looks like, what is the support you need to put in place in order for that future to become a reality? Now we're on to the O of mom. So V2 moms, we're on the O, which is obstacles. What's standing in your way? What are the obstacles standing in your way from getting it done, from realizing on your values, and from realizing on the vision? So here is where you write down all of the things you need to put in place to support your vision. Now, you may need to come at this from another perspective. So one of the tools, it's one of the greatest tools that I've ever come across, was created by Dan Sullivan in the Strategic Coach, and it's called the Strategy Circle. And for those of you who don't know what a strategy circle is, it's basically a tool that allows you to get very, very clear on what needs to be done to accomplish your goal. So in it, you basically outline your vision, which you've already done, and then you identify what your goal looks like, which again, you've already done in this process. And then you list everything that's currently standing in your way, your obstacles. So basically just say, okay, what's holding me back? What are the hurdles I need to get over? What are the problems that I'm going to encounter that I know are there right now? And just list them all. Everything that's stopping you from from accomplishing your goal. Then look at each obstacle in isolation and put an action step beside it, which indicates what you need to do to solve that problem. So, basically if you know, okay, well, I can't get my marketing or I don't have a marketing system in place. Okay. So you don't have a marketing system. That's one of the problems. That's why you're not getting enough leads. You're not getting enough appointments because you haven't got any marketing program running. Okay. So you say, well, now you want to embrace education-based marketing. So now what's standing in your way of embracing that? Well, I know what education-based marketing is, but what I don't have is I don't have the infrastructure in place. Okay. What's not in place? Well, maybe you don't have a website. So simply go to the host that we use, the Blue host in our resources, click on that and get a hosting account. Very, very inexpensive, very inexpensive hosting account. Contact the hosting account and say, I want to set up a WordPress site. So they'll walk you through the process of doing a 5-minute install of WordPress. Simply go then to the themes page and choose a theme that you like, or choose a couple themes that you like. Watch a couple videos on the Woo themes. Again, that's all listed on the resources section. Watch one of the videos that tells you how to choose your theme, how to upload a new theme, and just start walking through that process. Now, if you don't know everything that there is that you need to do, that's why I use the people that I do, and that's why I've listed the resources that I have, because all those people all the affiliate links that are there, those links will take you to people and companies who support you, who will actually walk you through it. So now with the obstacles, then you've got all the obstacles listed. Now with all those obstacles listed, you go beside them and you put all the solutions. Well, what do I need to do to then fix that obstacle? And now what you've done is you've created a list of action steps, which you can now call your to-do list, that will allow you to move your vision forward. I use this whenever I'm struggling with a big project or a big challenge, something that I just haven't figured out what the answer is. One of the challenges that I have is if I know what my goal is, then I know exactly what I need to put in place to do that. But if I'm not clear on my goal, then I can't put the action steps in place. So using things like a strategy circle or that methodology, using that just simply allows me to get much clearer on what are the things standing in my way, what are the potential things I need to educate myself on. One of the reasons why I'm so educated in the area of marketing and automation and that sort of thing is because I asked myself the question, what do I not have in place that I need in place in order to get this done? that takes care of the obstacles. Now, the obstacles, I think it's one of the most powerful sections of the V2 MOM. The vision is great because it gives you your sort of energy for what you're moving forward on. But the obstacles, man, those are the things that as soon as you knock those off your list, now you're moving forward. Now you're making some headway. So that's your V2 MA, and we've now got the M, the last M, the V2 MOM. So what does the last M stand for? It stands for measurement. What will you track to determine your progress? Okay, so if you can't measure it, then it's not worth doing. If you can't track it, it's just simply not worth doing. You've done the math in your vision. Now break it down into a variety of meaningful, measurable results. So here's the way you start doing the math on things. And this is just simply how to track your progress. If you need 10 new clients, then okay, now you know you need 10 new clients. If it takes you 20 meetings to get 10 new clients, make note of that. If you need 200 leads to get 20 meetings, make note of that. If you need to send out 2,000 flyers promoting a piece of great content that you have put together, and this generates for you 20 leads, then you need to map out a plan to send out over the course of the year 20,000 flyers. So if you send out 2,000 flyers and you know that this is going to lead to one new client, then you know the following. One new client might bring in $5,000 to $10,000 in annual revenue. Mailing out 2,000 flyers costs $750. That's a 500 to 1,200% return on your investment. Now, your marketing program has suddenly changed from being an expense to being a true investment. Really look at this. The measurement side of things, the reason why I use the education-based marketing and the direct response marketing is because it's so measurable. I can track it right down to every little nuance and every little step that I can then say, okay, how can I make this step better? For example, I'm running a program right now and I know my landing page is really converting well. I know that when somebody hits the landing page, that I've got a very high percentage of those people who look at the landing page actually register and for the content that I'm promoting. And that then generates for me a lead. I just simply, I know that that section's working, but then I took a look at some of the emails that I was using on the autoresponder, and we determined that, okay, some of these emails, they're getting a great open rate. And so, that's great. So now what I need to do is I know that if I've got the open rate, which means people are looking at the emails that I'm sending them, I need to get more people looking at them. So what are we working on now? Now I'm strictly working on content that I can then send out to my marketplace that will encourage them to sign up for the content. So sign up for a special report or sign up for some sort of information. And that will then get them into our system, but it also gives them a sense of focus and clarity on what it is that they're looking for. So now I can measure that. I can say, okay, if I send out 2,000 flyers, and so we're doing a split test right now. I sent out 2,000 flyers, and I didn't really get the response I was hoping for. I got a little bit, but I didn't get what I was really hoping for. So I went back to the drawing board and I redesigned our flyer. Now I've got the test running out there, and actually it was just today that the flyers were dropped in the mail. So now we're gonna see what those results are, and I'm gonna then benchmark it. So now if I end up with better results than I did for my last flyer that was sent out to the exact same targeted area, now I'm either going to have a better result or a worse result. Well, I think it's safe to say that I'm hoping that it will be a better result. If that's the case, now I know I've got a flyer that works. So I'm going to take that flyer and I'm going to change one thing on it, and I'm going to send it out again to a targeted area, probably depending on the area. If I'm increasing in the numbers, then I'm going to send it out to the same market or the same list, so to speak, and then see what my results are. And if from that one change. So I'm going to split test things. And that's what I'm doing is you keep on doing that and keep on refining it until you've got a process that just seems to work. And once you've got that done, now you can start to really ramp up the volume, because if I send out 2,000 flyers, I get one new client, that one new client's going to generate for me a lot of profit. So I can then take some of that profit, drive it right back into my next campaign, and maybe I'll be sending out 2,000 flyers a week. So, if it just means that you can really start to ramp things up because you know what the return is going to be, and you know you're not going to be sort of winking at somebody in the dark because you're doing it the right way. So that's where the measurement is. Take a look at your business and determine what are the things that are worth measuring. Some of the things that I spend a lot of time measuring are some of the metrics on my business and running a profitable business. So we take a look at solvency. We take a look at making sure that we've always got the proper amount of cash on hand for some future obligations, just to make sure that we aren't going to be squeezed, so to speak. We take a look at profitability on a regular basis to make sure that things are working in a profitable standpoint and that we are getting return for the money being invested. So that's the first section. So have a clear understanding of what it is that you do for your clients. That simply means use your V2 Mom. That's going to give you clarity, but it's also going to give you an actionable result. And then you can start to execute that actionable result. Now, the second one is to charge appropriately for your services. This is the value of your financial planning services, okay? What clients pay? The question is, will clients pay for these services? And this is something that a lot of starting fee-based financial planners are really, really concerned about. They say to me all the time, I'm just not sure my clients are different. They're just simply, I don't think they're going to pay for it. I just don't think they're going to pay that fee. My clients are different. You know what? They're not different. And I won't hear it. I won't listen to those excuses anymore because I know they're not different. I've had people say to me, well, you know what, my clientele, I don't have wealthy clients. My clients don't have a lot of assets. So I just don't think they're going to pay for it. Well, you know what? If they're not going to pay for it, it's because it's not worth it to them. So take a look at your target market and ask yourself, are your services worth paying for? Would you pay for these services? If you follow the fee-based financial planning delivery approach that I promote on the podcast and what I teach in great detail in the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery Academy, you'll have little, and I mean very little, resistance to your presenting fees for the work that you do. One of our Academy members, and this was amazing, during one of our coaching calls, one of our Academy members went into great detail on one of the most recent coaching calls, and he explained every step of his journey to charging his first financial planning fee to a new client. Now, his comment was that he was sitting in a Starbucks. This is where he held his fee presentation meeting with that particular client, and the client pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check for $1,800 to get started. Well, I mean, he said it was the easiest thing he had to do, and it was actually illogical for the client not to pay, not to engage for his services. It just didn't make sense. He said if he didn't ask for or present a fee, it would have actually been really weird because it's almost like going to a fine steakhouse. And when the meal's done and you just love the meal, it's all great. And then they come afterwards and say, oh, no, it's only, we're only going to charge you $10 for this. It just doesn't make sense. There's a disconnect there. People will pay for value. And the only way you will know your value is to test your fees on check writers. This is a concept that is so important. Something that sounds so logical, but oftentimes we don't. We don't follow this advice. I learned this in the Strategic Coach program, and it was basically always test your wares or your value on check writers. So always test your wares on check writers because everyone else is just telling you what you want to hear. So let me give you an example of something that is completely unrelated to our business, but makes the point. Now, I don't know how far-reaching the brand for this particular company extends, but there's a great chip company here in Canada, and the company is called Neal Brothers. Now, Neal Brothers, they sell chips, they sell salsa, they sell croutons, pasta sauces, popcorns, and I believe that they're all organic. It's really just a great company. And the products are great. Now, one of the brothers is a member of at a club that I belong to, and everybody kind of knows him as one of the Neal brothers. Now, the experience that I had was I was just sort of sitting, chilling out afterwards, just having a coffee, and Peter was sitting not too far from me. And he was just there, and somebody who kind of knew him, not really knew him, but sort of knew who he was saying, hey, was just having a chat with him. And Peter leaned forward and he said, hey, listen, I've got this new flavor of chip, and I don't know if it was a chip or a pretzel chip or a pita chip or what it was, but it was a new flavor. And he said, listen, would you mind trying this and tell me what you think? And so this guy tried it and ate it and basically gave him a glowing response and said, hey, this is awesome. And I thought to myself, you know what? He's lying. he's not giving him the real truth. What he's doing is he's basically, it's a setup. He's kind of telling him what he wants to hear, because the one thing we as people don't want to do is, let's say it was I don't know. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was at an ice cream parlor one time with my kids, and they had this ice cream, and it was bacon flavored ice cream. And I looked at that, and I thought, first of all, I'm not even going to try that because that just seems repulsive to me. But it was a bacon flavored ice cream. Now, if I was friendly with the guy, or if I wanted to be, say, this guy was known as sort of the ice cream guy and whatever, just like Peter is with being known as the chip guy and known as this great leader of this company. And it really is. It's a fantastic company. If you haven't tried Neil Brothers chips or products, you really do need to go do that. But the bottom line was, he was asking this guy who I got a sense that he wanted to impress him. He wanted to sort of just be friendly with him. And it's hard to be friendly if you've got bad news. So the whole idea of handing over the bag of chips and saying, try these and tell me if you like them, was kind of flawed at the beginning, because he was going to tell him it was good no matter what it tasted like. Even if he didn't love it, he was going to say, yeah, it's pretty good. So my question then is, well, what value was had from that? Now, here's where the value could have come in. If he had then said, listen, I've got a bag right here. I'm only charging, I'm selling them here for $1 or $2 for the bag. Do you want to buy one? That is information worth finding out. Because if he had said, you know what, I love those. They're so addictive. I mean, I know for me, dill pickle chips, I can't get enough of them. That's why I don't buy them, because I would eat bags and bags and bags of them. And if somebody was sitting with me and said, listen, I got a bag of dill pickle chips here from my company. You love the company. I would have probably just reached in my pocket and buy those because I know I love those. Well, that tells them something. So if Peter had said, listen, would you be willing to buy this chip? And I've got a bag right here, I'll sell it to you for $2. That would have been more valuable information. So always test your value on check writers, okay? So don't charge too little, because people will devalue what you do for them if you do. And you almost want to get really, really good information. In that example of Peter, Neil, and the chips, if he had said, listen, I've got this bag of chips here, and it's a prototype bag, and but I can sell it to you for $10. For me, if it was a bag of dill pickle chips, I probably would have paid $10 for it, because I can't get enough of them. That, again, you charge a higher price for it and see if they're willing to pay for it. If they are, you've got something. If you charge an appropriate price for it and they're willing to pay for it, you've got something. If you charge too little, again, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just something that's kind of a throwaway to them. So you get more valuable information from increasing your prices and charging what you definitely feel that what's appropriate for the services that you're offering. Because if you don't, it just seems kind of weird. All right, so charging appropriately for your services. We've done that. Now, create systems and workflows and automate where you can. So we talked about this in the last episode, how important it is and how elite firms do this. This topic is near and dear to my heart. Technology today can get rid of so much of the noise that surrounds getting things done. It's just phenomenal. So what do I mean? The noise I'm referring to is the noise you hear in your head when you have to pause and ask yourself, what's the next step to what I'm doing? And when you have to ask yourself this question, you run a huge risk of missing things. This step used to be solved by creating checklists, okay? So one of the processes in the past was basically put a checklist together for everything that you do and just have people follow the checklist. Now, the problem with that is that, don't get me wrong, checklists can definitely serve a purpose. But I'll give you an example. I wouldn't want to take off in a plane without the comfort I get from knowing that the pilot would have followed a very regimented, very strict checklist to check everything before we take off. But there's an inherent risk in using checklists in today's day and age, so to speak. The risk is that it takes time to put a checklist together and takes time to keep it up to date. Which means if something changes, so if there's a software upgrade, a computer upgrade, something, the checklist won't work. Which, because it is being used by a human, simply means that it will probably get put to the side and never looked at because it doesn't properly portray or reflect what needs to be done. So all of the good intentions of a checklist fall by the wayside. But when you program the tasks into your systems and those tasks are triggered by workflows, you never really have to worry about what to do next because the system or workflow will tell you what to do next. And if there's an upgrade, the methodology behind the system will remain intact. So I use automated workflows for keeping everything organized with what has to happen and when during the initial series of meetings with a new prospect. Once a prospect becomes a client, we have other systems in place that ensure things like, data integrity. Specific fields on our system must be filled in when a prospect becomes a client before that update can be saved. So, let me give you an example. Someone in our system with an opportunity that has been won. Okay, so this could be like an insurance policy or an investment or even a financial plan. Okay, so when it's won, it must be tagged as, so what we do is we have stages. And I think I've talked about this in a previous episode where, each opportunity goes through various stages. And I've identified what the stages are that each opportunity must go through. One of those stages is the point at which the client says, yes, I want to move forward with it. And that's where I consider the stage being won. It's not completed, it's won. Because then there's the stages of actually executing the financial plan or executing the investment solution or whatever. But at least it's one. Now, when you click on that one stage, I have a data integrity check in our system that says, wait a minute, it checks to see if the client is tagged or if that particular record is tagged as a client on the system. Okay, so the logic here is that I wouldn't be working with someone on an opportunity unless they were a client. So what it does is it helps me protect against working with somebody and missing updating their record as updating them as being a client, because the risk of not having this field checked off or filled in, if somebody forgets to update the relationship status to client, that particular record, they won't get any of the electronic correspondence that we provide to all of our clients. So it's critical that record be set up. So I've got actual double checks in different places where it takes a look and says, okay, if I'm doing this, if I'm saying this opportunity has been won, then the logic says that this means that this person must be a client. So let's do a quick check of that record to determine if their record status or relationship status equals client. And if it doesn't, it won't let me save that change. And it highlights, it gives me a little message saying you need to go in and make sure this particular record is tagged as a client. And so that just simply makes sure that now I've got a data integrity check that makes sure that client will never miss out on correspondence because somebody forgot to fill in a field. So another thing that's important is that they won't show up on our dashboard for client stats because they won't be considered a client by our system. So again, that field, I've identified what are the fields that are so critical to me, analyzing my business. Well, I recognize that the field of them being tagged as a client, the membership level that they're involved with, all these different fields. I've got a handful of fields that I think are important so that I make sure that I've got data integrity checks in place to make sure that if something is to happen, then it just does a quick little check to say, if this is an opportunity that you've won, then let's just make sure that they're a client before we save this. And so we've done that. So this it's important that we make sure that you can't do certain things unless the field is properly updated. So that's the data integrity or data checks that are there. And it also means that if you've set it up properly, the automation, so that not having to think about, okay, well, after somebody agrees to putting maybe an insurance policy in place, well, one of the steps we need to make sure is that the medicals have been ordered. And we also want to make sure that an email goes out to the client notifying them on how to properly prepare for their medical. So we've got all those steps there, and they just happen. And so nobody has to really think about it because there's a lot of moving parts in a financial planning business. And this is just one of the ways that we go through to make sure it's all set up properly. So I use automation systems to run our education-based marketing campaigns. So once someone becomes a new lead, so we follow up with them automatically with a lead nurturing campaign. Now, the cool thing about this campaign is that it has a level of smartness to it. So that when we ask a lead a question, something like, are you looking for a financial planner or are you looking for an investment advisor? So when we do that, when they click on a specific link or register for a specific piece of new content, we can then tailor the new lead nurturing messages based on how they respond to emails. So the system is also set up in such a way that people may reply to an automated email, but get a personal response from us. And they're blown away by this. So let me just take a big step back on this, because this is an important point. So I'm going to talk about the smartness of your email nurturing campaigns and how there's technology out there that will allow you to be very smart in actually what the website looks like when people come to it. So here's what you can do. You can set things up in such a way that, you've got an initial, everybody sees my website when they get to it. If they've never been to it before, this is what they see. Now on there are what's called call to actions. So on the call to actions are simply if you have requested a certain piece of content or then on there is information, so the education. So here's information that you may want. And so we're trying to use it as a carrot to get to give them some great quality information in exchange for their email address. So now let's say that they click on a piece of content A. Now, the next time they come back to the website, there's technology that allows you to make it so that content A, because they've already got it, never gets shown to them again. Now you've got new content on there that you've put in place that you figure people who have already seen content A are probably more inclined to want to see content B. So now you can tailor make the website so that every time they come back to the website, it is more tailored to what it is that they're looking for. It's amazing technology. Now, I'm still trying to work my way through getting all this set up because you can see that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of split testing that you can do. But the point is that you can now make it seem like you're customizing everything for them and they don't even know what's happening to them. So they can get to the site and go, wow, every time I come to this website, it seems like it's answering my next question. It's exactly what the intention is. And you can do the same thing with your emails. So you can actually put them on different email nurturing campaigns, because if you can then start them on campaign A, and then as they go through campaign A, you're recommending that they either, get together with you or call you for an information meeting or whatever, something like that, or that you can offer them new information and say, hey, maybe there's some new information that you might find of value. And they go to that and they click on that and they sign up for it and they register to receive it. Well, number one, when they go to that landing page, our system recognizes who they are and pre-fills in the form for them. And so we can actually add a few more fields to that form to say, okay, now we've pre-filled in everything else, but now maybe you can tell us what city you're in. And so we're slowly gathering more information from them so we can tailor make the message that we're sending back out to them. Then the nurturing campaign says, wait a minute, they started in our system on nurturing campaign nurturing workflow A, but now they've requested this information. So now let's move them from wherever they are at this stage of the campaign. Let's move them over to this new campaign, and now let's run them on it down a new track. And then we can really do that. And so that's simply now customizing the messages to answer the questions that they're probably going to have based on the information that they've requested so far. So it's really cool technology. Again, all the information and what I'm using is already in the academy, it's definitely in the academy, but it's also some of the tools that we use in the resources section of the financial planning, the fee-based financial planning mastery website. Now there's so much information here. I could talk forever. Now, on hiring, so we're going to talk about hiring properly, and I'm going to start to motor through some of this. So if you have any questions on a lot of this stuff, feel free just to get back in touch with me, send me an email, and I'll answer any questions that you've got. Now, hiring properly. Hiring at the right time and for the right reasons can make or break a business. A lot of companies waste a lot of time and money when it comes to hiring. When we hire, we like to have as many of the systems that person is going to be using documented into what we call video unique methods. Now, this is simply a screen capture recording of how to do certain things. So this allows a new hire to very quickly get up to speed and also provides them with the confidence to learn without failing. It's easier as a new hire to go back and watch a video than to acknowledge to somebody else that you don't understand something. But don't get caught in the box of always having to hire locally. We have 2 virtual assistants who live in other countries who work for us every single day. Their skills are top notch. We communicate using technology, things like Skype and Basecamp and GoToMeeting and all that sort of stuff. Training is easy when you use screen capture software to show someone on the other side of the earth how to do something. So finding these people is even easier. Check out the information in the virtual assistant section of our toolbox tab on the Fee-Based Financial Planning Mastery website to find out who we use to find and hire our virtual assistants. This is an amazing program. So we've set up an affiliate link with on it, and because as I say, I mean, what Chris Ducker is set up with the Virtual Staff Finder. He's the president of the company, and has just made it so easy to get very, very talented people on a virtual basis. And so he's outsourced. He's actually, the company's based in the Philippines, and the quality of the workers that he finds, we've just had such great success with it. So definitely check that one out. And hiring is important. Make sure that you set up things properly. So if you know what you want people to do, then go in advance, put some screen captures together so you can say, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's the outline for how to do it. And here's the tools that we're going to use to keep everything on track. So it just makes a lot of sense. Now, align yourself with the best. As a fee-based financial planner, you're going to touch a lot of different aspects in a client's life. It's up to you to ensure that you can assist these clients with pretty much anything they need. You do this by aligning yourself with the best in a variety of areas. So let's start with the core relationships that I feel you need to have in place. Number one, you need to have investment counselors and portfolio managers to refer to. I simply ask myself, what makes a perfect investment solution? I want to make sure that there's value for the fees that I'm paying. There's transparency in what's going on, high quality reporting, great customer service, and a proven discipline. We want to have insurance specialists on board. We want to have a life insurance specialist, living benefit specialist, large case assistants, great references or referrals to accountants and lawyers, executive compensation specialists, mortgage brokers, real estate agents. Those are some of the core relationships you need to have in place. And if you don't have them in place, just simply look around, find some local accountants in your area or lawyers or whoever they are in your area and call them up and say, listen, we don't have a relationship right now with a good accountant. So I don't know if you're a good one or not, but you've either come highly recommended. We actually found our accountant from asking our clients, and I kept on asking my clients, do you have an accountant that you use that you really like? And all of a sudden I came to one client and he said, oh, I love my accountant. And I thought to myself, who loves their accountant? Well, I met with this guy, and I can tell you right now, I love my accountant. So, go to your clients first and find out who they're using, because oftentimes they'll have some great resources for you. Then have some relationships in place with some not so core specialists, people like good contractors or home builders, a plumber, electrician, a minister. People have come to me and said, listen, I don't know who to turn to. I want to get married. I have no relations with any church or anything like that, so I really don't know. Well, we had in place a great relationship with a minister we could turn to, a franchisee specialist, a mechanic, off-lease car sales, trust company, business coach, business services, for things like website development, or for us Salesforce consultants for programming and that sort of stuff. So, aligning yourself with the best and having those resources you can turn to is important. Now, the other one we talked about was educating clients first. An educated prospect is a great prospect. An educated client is a great client. A disciplined financial planning process taught to your clients and prospects means for relationships with great clients who won't piss you off. Okay, so basically educating them allows them to know exactly what you do, and so they're not expecting things that aren't in your core services. I spend a ton of time on educating clients. I want prospects to learn as we go as well. This not only helps to differentiate what we do from our competition, but it builds rapport and confidence. People are desperately looking for leadership, and when you can provide it to them in a plain English way, you have basically a client for life. It's amazing. So, people are looking for that leadership, and they're looking for confidence. Focus on plain English education-based communication pieces, and you will have much more efficient meetings and higher quality relationships. Ask yourself, what are the biggest frustrations that clients will have with your industry, and then educate them on how you have solved the problem using your process. Are they frustrated with some of the hidden charges. So explain how you've embraced a full transparency model. Are they frustrated with paying fees that are too high? Educate them on what they're truly frustrated with. And in most cases, it's not the fees. People will use fees as a catch-all phrase. What they're really meaning is that they're sick of paying good money for no value. So when someone says that their fees are too high, ask them, compared to what? Crappy results and bad service? Sure, the fees are too high if you're getting that. People will gladly pay you for quality, value, wisdom, and leadership. What people are frustrated with is not getting quality, value, wisdom, and leadership. So, of course, they're frustrated and they think any fee is going to be too high for crappy service. So reflect on your process and ask yourself these questions. Do you have a process? If so, how is it articulated to clients? If not, why don't you have a process? You need a process you can follow to deliver your financial planning services to clients. Does your process lead people to a natural conclusion that they can understand? Financial planning can be very complicated, so being able to narrow it down to its essence for a client is important. Simplifying what they need to do and tell them what they need to do it. Always explain things with the transition phase so that. Okay, so you need to put $1,000 a month away so that. You need to focus on your debts now so that. And just fill in the blanket. So it explains why it is they're doing what they're doing. From what you've said here's another example. From what you've said, you'd like to have your kids go through post-secondary education experience. I've determined that you need to invest X dollars a month into this particular plan so that you can, make sure that your kids are educated properly, and it'll put aside enough money to cover the cost that you've indicated or you're going to incur. The term "so that" simply allows you to put a reason behind your recommendation. Otherwise, without a reason, there's no buy-in. And if there's no buy-in, there's no commitment. Are they frustrated with the number of moving parts and simply not knowing what is right for them to do in their particular circumstances? Educate them on what all of the moving parts are and why it's so important to find a qualified CFP to work with who's been trained on coordinating all of these moving parts and prioritizing the order in which they should be used. Explain how this is a common problem, and as a result, you've created a unique process that will ensure that they come out the other end or the other side with a very clear understanding of what it is that they need to do and why they need to do it. And then the final one we talk about, which was picking weeds. We really can't stress this one enough. Once you have a clear understanding about what it is that you do and why you do it, you'll know the clients that you shouldn't be working with. And so you can then go back every so often to your existing book of business and your existing client base and say, okay, who of these clients really it's not appropriate for me to be working with? And then identify who is the appropriate person that they should be working with, find that person, and offer the business to them. Believe me, they'll be more than happy that you did. You'll build a great relationship, and now you've potentially got somebody that you can refer to. Maybe you meet with somebody who is referred to you and they just, you realize, what, it's not appropriate. It's not, my services aren't ideal for them, but I do have somebody that I can refer to. So now you can say to the client, listen, I can't help you, but I know who can. And they love you for that. So hopefully all that information just will simply give you a bit of a benchmark for looking at your business and asking yourself, do I have all these systems in place? Do I have all these mechanisms and ideals in place? And because if you do, or if you don't, this is what the elite businesses are doing. This is what the successful businesses are doing. This is what we teach in the academy. This is what we want you to be embracing, because doing it this way will simply allow you to build a better business.
You've been listening to Scott E. Plaskett, a certified financial planner and industry veteran in the world of fee-based financial planning. Want free resources to help you build a better fee-based financial planning firm? Visit ilovefinancialplanning.com right now to register for Scott's Inner Circle email list, where you'll get front-of-the-line updates on the latest resources that are driving profits to Scott's fee-based financial planning practice. All of the resources are pulled directly from the highly acclaimed fee-based Financial Planning Mastery Academy. Go now to ilovefinancialplanning.com. Build a better business and make more money with your fee-based financial planning practice today.